Welcome to the Morning Glory Project, Stories of Determination. I'm your host, Betsy Graziani Fassbinder. As I record this episode of the Morning Glory Project, or as I recorded it anyway, it was prior to the time that we were in this time of COVID-19 and social distancing. So of course, Amy Ferris and I did not speak about those things, but we did talk about the idea of how people feel really alone and how isolation can exacerbate our challenges. So during this time, what's important is to remember that though you may be distant from each other physically in the molecular space as we need to be to keep safe and healthy, that we don't have to be emotionally distant from each other. Folks are a phone call away, a Zoom episode away, a conference call away, a wave on a trail as you walk with appropriate healthy distance. So for all of you out there that are isolated, I hold you in my heart. Turns out there's a fair amount of room in there for us all to hold each other in our hearts. And for those who are out serving others, whether it's providing groceries or taking care of folks in hospitals, bless you, take good care. And now for this episode with Amy Ferris. I'm delighted to welcome to the Morning Glory Project today Amy Ferris. She's an author, a screenwriter, a playwright. Her memoir, Marrying George Clooney, debuted as a book, but also then later as an off-Broadway theater production in 2012 with Ruth Pennebaker of the New York Times calling it poignant, freewheeling, cranky, and funny, which may just be a summary description of Amy herself. Her screenplay, Funny Valentines, directed by Julie Nash, was nominated for Best Screenplay Award by Stars and BET in 2000. Amy's the editor of the anthology Shades of Blue, Writers on Suicide, Depression, and the Blues, and is the co-editor, along with Hollye Dexter, of the anthology Dancing at the Shame Prom. She's on the faculty of the Kauai Writers Conference, where she co-teaches an extensive masterclass. Amy was named and awarded one of Women's E! News 2018 21 Leaders for the 21st Century. That sounds like a big deal. She created the Ovary Office in collaboration with Women's E! News and recently co-authored a book, Old School Love, for HarperCollins, which is published in January of 2020. So it's a brand new baby book. Amy's become widely regarded maven of what she calls Gracebook, with her post-coffee pre-wine posts in which she can as easily excoriate politician for acts of despicable cruelty as she can wax adoration of one or another fellow human for an act of kindness and generosity. Amy Ferris, it's my delight to have you on the Morning Glory Project today. Thanks for making the time today.
Oh, I'm thrilled to be here, Betsy.
Well, Amy, you've done about a gajillion things, and I've gotten to watch some of those and be a part of some of those gratefully. And the reason, in addition to a lot of other reasons, but one of the main reasons I wanted to have you on today is because I've been nibbling around the edges of you for a while with this podcast. Because you included my story in Shades of Blue, and I was at the Los Angeles launch a few years ago, I got to meet the amazing people that you assembled in that book. The amazing, inspiring, wow, just amazing stories. And so I've been interviewing a few of those folks, and I thought, well, wait a minute, I need to interview Amy Ferris, of course. So I'm so grateful for the people and the stories that you've brought into my circle of awareness, and I wanted to have you on today.
Oh, well, I am delighted.
So tell me, maybe we can start there a little bit. Can you start with Shades of Blue, just because that's my entree into knowing you?
Sure.
Tell me what prompted that book and why you assembled it.
What prompted the book was Robin Williams taking his life. And when I read that, I think I was like everybody else in the world, just overwhelmed and saddened. And there were two kinds of reactions. One was oh my God, he died, he committed suicide. And the other reaction was that he was being very selfish. And I decided to take on both of those reactions and shared my own suicide attempt on Facebook when I was a young girl. And it went viral. There were thousands and thousands of people who commented or shared that. And the thing that I found was that there were so many other people who had had an experience with suicide or depression, or someone in their life, had taken their life. And I immediately went to Seal Press because they had already been my publisher, and spoke with Krista Lyons. And Krista said, I want to do this. Let's do this. And it was really kind of immediate. Mm-hmm. And I was very grateful that I was able to put together and curate a book that felt very timely and very important. And then, of course, I invited, 35 people or however many to write their stories, you being one of them. And I'm so very proud of that book. I'm proud of what came out of that book. I get very emotional when I talk about it because I think there's so many people who hide. They're so afraid to share their stories. They're so filled with shame and guilt. So I'm very proud of that, Betsy.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm proud to be counted among those in those stories. And I think that you and I, that book is evidence of our shared value of celebrating those who survive.
Yes.
That all of those stories are survivor stories, people who have made it through somehow, made it past the thought of suicide or the attempt of suicide, made it past the loss of a loved one, made it past their own anxiety or fear or depression or those other mental health challenges that can plague just every single one of us walking around on the planet. So I'm wondering, as you read and assembled all those stories and as you continue through your Facebook exchanges, which are enormous with lots and lots of followers, I'm wondering if you've kind of come up with any common denominators, like how do you think people make it through?
How do I think people make it through their suffering, their sorrow, their pain?
Yeah, I guess my question, it's really the question I always have in this, why I'm doing this program, is I want to know how people make it through what they make it through. Whatever that is, because not everybody does. Not everybody makes it out alive. Not everybody makes it out. And you chatted or got people to write about having made it through. So I'm wondering what you've learned for yourself and through others about making it through what you make it through.
I think we make it through, Betsy, when other people hold us up, when we know that we're not alone. I think that that's a very important component. So many people feel that what they're going through, nobody else goes through. And the more we talk about suicide, the more we talk about pain, the more we talk about our own feelings of inadequacy, not feeling enough. And then we find that there are so many other people who share that. That's really important. It's really, really important. But, on the other hand, Betsy, there are people who will not get out alive because they cannot live in their skin any longer. And I think it's a fallacy to think that we can save others all the time. Some people have a very short time on this earth, and nothing we do or nothing they do is going to change that.
It's funny as you talk about that. Of course, I'm doing what I suppose anyone listening might be doing, which is that I'm connecting what you're saying to my own experience. And having lost loved ones to suicide in my own family and in my own acquaintance, I guess I've come to the same conclusion the way that you have, which is you can only do what you can do on behalf of someone else. And then I've come to respect their choice. You know, that if their life is just so exquisitely painful that they can't endure another day, who am I to ask them to?
You know, that's a wonderful way to put it, Betsy, because I am such a fierce supporter of pro-choice. And I kind of feel like that goes across the board.
Me too. Me too. I feel the same way.
And I think that there are many, many people who just can no longer live one more day. And I know that we mourn those people. We have a struggle with their death, you know, but I think if we can look at how they struggle every day in their skin, it might be a little different.
Well, we get to replace judgment with compassion, right?
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, all of that "he's so selfish" stuff.
Oh God.
It just makes me crazy when I hear that. And at the same time, there are lots of people in your book, and of course in your acquaintance and mine, who have felt that there was no hope, that they couldn't live on, and later discovered that they could. So of course we want to help those who are feeling suicidal or profoundly depressed or having other issues, to let them know that there is possibility if they choose to embrace that, if they want to be here, that they can have somebody holding them. You know, there's that kind of acceptance of everyone's got their own choices. And at the same time, golly, if I've got somebody that I love in need, I want them to know I'm here, that death is not their only choice, of course.
Well, no, death is not their only choice. And I think that, but I do think, Betsy, that there are people who can hear that.
Yeah,
I do. And then there are people who can't.
Right.
You know, I think depression is, you know, there's so many variations of it. And I think compassion, I think that's the word, compassion, the word you just used. That's the key word, Betsy, compassion.
Well, so tell me about you. How, in your dark moments, what is it that gets you through? What inspires you past the dark, horrible moments that have clouded your existence sometimes?
I think what I've learned over the years is I've learned to not be ashamed to reach out in my sadness. I used to feel very ashamed by it. I used to feel alone. But I've learned over the years that when I'm suffering from some kind of depression or feeling very blue, that I can pick up the phone. I can reach out to somebody. It's very hard for me to ask for what I want. That's a very big thing for me. It's like I love giving. I love making someone else's life easier. I love giving, you know, I love making magic for other people. It is so hard for me. But part of the not asking is that causes me a lot of pain.
Well, that's isolating, right? I mean, that's like everybody else is worthy of my help, but I'm not worthy to ask them.
Yeah, that's pretty much, that's a good thing. Yeah, right. You got that. And so for what I've learned over the years is when I'm in pain, when I'm suffering, when I'm feeling sad, when I'm depressed, I reach out to my friends. I reach out to people who I know are there. I know will, you know, get me off the ledge, talk me down. I've learned to take better care of myself in those moments. And I let people take care of me, which is something that had always been so hard for me.
You know, I'm curious, Amy, because I've talked to lots of folks and I don't want to say it's exclusive to women by any means, but I think it may be more common to women, that it's really hard to let somebody take care of you. It's as if we've been acculturated to take care of others. So it feels anathema somehow to ask for it in return. I'm wondering if how you see that, if you're finding that too, that's just really hard for folks.
Oh, it's excruciating.
Which is, I always want to say why. I get it. I feel the same way, but I'm wondering, why is that so hard?
I think it's hard because we've been conditioned maybe to think that it's a weakness to ask for help. That if we ask for help, that means somehow that we're not strong. And that is a real fallacy. That's, total bullshit. I think being strong means that you ask for help. You share your sorrow. You write your life. You put yourself out there. And I know for me that I grew up in a family where my mother didn't want to hear about my pain and sorrow. And so we're conditioned, right? We're conditioned to be the good girl, or to stay quiet, or, to not share, any of our pain or sorrow or anything that's bad that we're going through. And
that can come from our individual families, of course, or from our culture, certain cultures that are more, stiff upper lip. We don't talk about that kind of
absolutely.
stuff, that kind of business as well.
Absolutely.
So really, in a silly way, it's sort of like the freedom to make errors, the freedom to flub, the freedom to be flawed, the freedom to have a need. What do you think gets us to this point where we can ask for help when we can admit that we need something?
Oh, I like that. That's a good one. I think that if we can keep encouraging people that being messy is okay, that it's a part of life, that our flaws and our foibles are what make us all so extraordinary. I think if we can keep sharing that and keep sharing all of the stories that are filled with messy, then what happens is that people start to come out of their shell. People start to see that, oh yeah, I can share that story. I could tell that story. It's liberating. It's completely liberating. And I think the only way that we do it is by keep sharing our stories and writing about our messiness, and writing about our screw ups and our fumbles, and writing about every mistake, because I really believe that every one of my mistakes can be turned into my mission. Because my mistakes are what make me unique and rather sexy, actually.
Well, and it's fun because you play with the edges of this. You play with the idea that I think you called them, wearing our scars like stardust is one of the phrases that you use a lot in your posts. Yes. And it's sort of like, I think about how boring perfect is, and how it's not only is it boring, it's boring because it's false. If we look at somebody and idealize and think, oh my gosh, their life is just so perfect, and they look so perfect, and they talk so perfect, and their house is perfect, and gosh, their marriage is just perfect. It just makes me want to put my finger down my throat and, get it out. Because the other thing is, as soon as I get to know that person, I realize that that's just the facade. They may be beautiful. They may have a nice home. They may have those things, but they also have pain underneath it somewhere. They have had loss, and they had experiences, and they've made mistakes.
Oh, Betsy, everybody has a junk drawer.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Everybody's got a junk drawer. I like that, Amy. Yeah, I guess it's the difference of whether or not you let somebody know. It seems like what happens, for me anyway, is as soon as I stopped earlier on in my life thinking that I had to look perfect on the outside, as soon as I started revealing that other stuff, you get Now it has another context these days, but you get the Me Too avalanche. You get, oh yeah, I'm like that also. Oh yeah, I did that. Oh, mine was worse than that.
Yeah.
It's sort of like a tumble that starts to happen where other people start confessing to and identifying with what you say. That's what I witness on your posts, Amy, is a lot of people saying, oh, thank you for posting that. I've done that too, or I've made that same mistake.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Well, I'm wondering, yours, of course, you're a writer of all genre here, but I'm wondering, beyond the writing, what it's been like for you to have your stories out in the world, to have, whether they're in play form or in film form or in book form. What's that been like for you to have your most vulnerable stories out there?
Oh, it's been wonderful. I've always been a writer who thrives in writing in my truth, because I kind of feel like the reason I have those stories is to share them. So when I put something out there, or I post it, or I write it, or I write an essay, I'm actually very encouraged that I've had a life that gives me the opportunity to share it and to also encourage other people. Mm-hmm. Somebody said many, many, many years ago to me, all of our pain and sorrow is to understand another heart. And I took that to heart. And I think that when we share the dirtiness and the messiness and the down and dirty of our own lives, we give other people the opportunity and permission to be less attached to not telling their truth. And I'm grateful for the life I had, that I can share it, that I can go out there and write what I write about my life, whether it's my marriage, whether it's about my daily life, whether it's about my past. And yeah, I'm proud that I've had a life that's filled with a lot of messiness.
And also, I mean, I don't want to sugarcoat this either. When you're honest, when you're vulnerable and out there, you get all the wonderful, yummy things that we're talking about, but you also get the slings and arrows of trolls and dissenters and other critics as well. And I witnessed that in your sharing as well. Say something about, I wonder if you'd talk a little bit about that, about what it's like to manage both the adoration and love and connection that comes from sharing your vulnerability, as well as, the naysayers and the not so nice.
I don't expect everyone to like me. And everyone is entitled to their opinion. Everyone. Unless, of course, you're vile and cruel, and then then no, I don't want you on my page posting. I don't want that. But I don't expect everyone to like me, and not everybody should. And I think that there are a lot of people out there who absolutely love what I write, and it inspires them, and it encourages them, and it gives them hope, and it gives them the opportunity to go out in the world and speak and do their truth. And then there are people who think I'm completely, who don't like me and who don't like what I write. And both are very important. If everyone liked me, I wouldn't learn something.
Well, and if everyone liked you, you probably wouldn't be pushing the edges of your own creativity and vulnerability either.
No.
I'm thinking there's this quote by Brene Brown who said, "Do not think that you can be brave with your life and your work and never disappoint anyone. It just doesn't work that way."
It's absolutely true.
Yeah, I think getting used to the idea of not pleasing everybody is a big nugget to take away from this conversation. That I wonder how much paralysis, how many people have suffered trying to fashion themselves into being, quote, and I dislike this word a lot, nice.
Oh, God, let's get rid of nice.
What would you replace it with?
Oh, listen, I'm if someone says it to me, you're so nice, I go, no, I'm really kind. I'm kind. Kind is not rooted in fear. Kind is rooted in love. Nice is rooted in fear. I don't like the word nice. And I also actually think that a lot of times we're politically correct just for the sake of it, even though we don't want to be politically correct.
You mean we're involuntarily so? We conform?
I think that we're in a place in the world where we watch everything that we say and do. And, the truth is, Betsy, we're going to always offend someone.
If we're doing it right?
If we're doing it right, we're going to offend somebody. We are. I mean,
there's a goal for the day. Go out and offend somebody.
Yeah, say something and do something that's going to offend someone.
As long as it comes from a place of truth and kindness. I mean, not offending somebody just by being ugly. Of course,
no.
That's easy. That's cheap.
That's so easy.
Yeah, offend somebody by being real, by being kind and genuine and saying what matters to you.
Everybody, yeah. I mean, no matter what we say and do, someone is bound, or many are bound to tell us that, they don't like what we're saying, or they don't like how we're dressed, or they don't like how we're, acting, or
whom we're advocating for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely. As long as we stand in our truth, then that's good.
So, Amy, you have a new book out, right?
Yeah,
so I can't believe you made this time to talk with me in the middle of a book launch. But Old School Love, can you tell us just a bit about that? And that'll be how we'll end our conversation. Tell us about Old School Love. And by the way, those of you who have not read Marrying George Clooney or Dancing at the Shame Prom, or dare I be self-aggrandizing and say Shades of Blue, please do find those stories. But tell us a bit about Old School Love and how we might learn about that.
I co-authored that book with Rev Run from Run DMC and his wife Justine Simmons, and it is a book about love. They have been married for over 25 years, and I was Lisa Sharkey from HarperCollins gave me actually private messaged me about a year and a half ago and said, I have a book that I'd like you to co-author. I didn't really know Lisa. She followed me on Facebook, and she loved how I wrote about love. And she put us together. And it's interesting because I'd never followed rap. And here I was, kind of like partnering with the biggest rapper. And it's a fabulous book. It really is. It's all about love, every kind of love, from messy love to passionate love to compassionate love to faithful love. And I think it's a book that will inspire people who struggle in relationships. It's really great. I'm very proud of the book. I'm proud that my name is on it.
What an unlikely pairing, but how much magic that seemed to have made.
Oh my God, so wonderful. Unlikely.
Amy, thank you so much. People can find you on Facebook, of course, which you call Gracebook. And I'm so happy that you were able to have this conversation with me today. Thanks for making this time.
Thank you for inviting me.
I was so grateful to talk with Amy Ferris today. Lots of little nuggets in there. But I think the one that I really want to talk about is how she turns her mistakes into her mission. That I wonder if that's true for so many people who we might regard as heroic, people that are doing amazing things. Perhaps it comes from a place of a mistake of their own past, or a flaw that they have, or something that they're overcoming. Thinking about somebody who, for example, has a certain disease or has suffered a certain malady and creates a foundation to help others with that. I think that happens a lot. And I like that idea. And my extra bloom today is about making my own mistakes into my mission. Thanks so much for listening to the Morning Glory Project today. And Thanks to Amy Ferris for being a guest on this today. If you've enjoyed this podcast, share it out with your friends. Let folks know about it. I love sharing these fabulous stories. Now, go out and bloom.